What I ate and what I drank are two very different things. But what's alike between the both of them is that they're both made out of the element carbon. What's up, everyone? It's Mr. Ramble coming at you with more science. Yesterday, we talked about the two ways organisms do in order to access energy. These ways to access energy from matter cycles are 1, photosynthesis, and 2, cellular respiration. Today, we'll mark our first day talking about the carbon cycle. Specifically, we'll be talking about where carbon is actually located before actually talking about the parts of the carbon cycle. Like I said, carbon is found in both these peanuts and also this coconut juice. Both came from plants, and plants actually grab carbon from, you guessed it, carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. They take in that carbon dioxide from the air during photosynthesis to create their stored energy in the form of, you guessed it, sugars. This is the equation for photosynthesis, showing that plants absorb carbon dioxide along with water and with the sun to create sugars, stored energy, and oxygen. So carbon isn't only found in foods. It's actually found all over the world. That is why sometimes you hear from scientists talking about planet Earth as a carbon-based planet, meaning carbon is everywhere. Carbon is in all 4 spheres that make up the Earth. The biosphere, meaning all living things in the Earth. The geosphere, meaning all the rocks on the Earth. The atmosphere, meaning all the air on the Earth. And the hydrosphere, meaning all the water on the Earth. So, as you can already tell, carbon is everywhere. From you to me, to the rocks beneath our feet, to the air that we breathe, to the water that we drink. The element carbon, the thing that came from the Big Bang, is everywhere. So we've already discussed that plants take in carbon, so they're taking carbon from the atmosphere and also from the biosphere, the soil and the rocks beneath their feet, which is also the geosphere. These plants include plants that are on land and also in water. And remember, plants use the process in order to make their own stored energy. So that means they are autotrophs. They make their own stored energy in order to access it later in a process called cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is the process in which organisms, both autotrophs, plants, and heterotrophs, animals, use in order to access their stored energy. Meaning, autotrophs and heterotrophs use cellular respiration to use the food that they consumed for their activities. This process uses oxygen and sugars and breathing in order to create or output, you guessed it, more carbon. One thing we need to know is that sugars also include some carbon in them. Heterotrophs, meaning animals just like us, get our carbon from eating other organisms, which include autotrophs, plants, and other heterotrophs, other animals. So we consume those organisms and breathe and keep outputting that carbon that we consumed in the version of carbon dioxide. So carbon is everywhere. Organisms, both autotrophs and heterotrophs, take carbon in. They also release carbon from their stored energy in the process called cellular respiration. But there's one other big way that we produce or put carbon everywhere. And that's through burning our fossil fuels and cutting down trees. So we should know by now that cutting down trees and using trees is actually using carbon because trees are autotrophs that have a lot of carbon in them. Fossil fuels, which is part of the geosphere, the rocks, also have a lot of carbon. And these fossil fuels power our cars and our automobiles. This in turn increases the amount of carbon we have in the atmosphere in the form of carbon dioxide. And we all know that carbon dioxide is actually a greenhouse gas. And without sparing the details, the more greenhouse gases we have in the atmosphere, what do we have other than more carbon? And I'm going to leave us off on that note and continue tomorrow on the carbon cycle's processes. So we learned today how organisms access carbon and where carbon is located. We also learned about the impacts of actually accessing carbon, more focusing on how humans actually access carbon and increase carbon emissions, also known as increasing CO2, carbon dioxide, in our atmosphere. Knowing that we have 4 different spheres on this earth, we already see that carbon is everywhere. If you have any questions, make sure to reach out to me, and if not, I'll see you in the next video. Take care.